The War Council chamber reeked of burnt ozone and overconfidence. Prince Kael'dros of the Vrynn Empire lounged in his gravitational suspension throne, 6 fingers drumming an irritating rhythm against the armrest while watching the tactical display flicker with Earth's pathetically inadequate defenses. "This will be over before the second moon rises," he announced, his translator converting his words into a dozen languages for the assembled admirals. 1 planet, 1 species, 7 billion primitives who haven't even colonized their own star system. Admiral Threx, a scarred veteran of 30 campaigns, shifted uncomfortably. "My prince, the intelligence reports suggest—" "Intelligence reports?" Kael'dros interrupted, his voice dripping with enough sarcasm to corrode titanium plating. "What could they possibly tell us that we don't already see? They have chemical rockets, Threx. Chemical rockets. My royal transport has better propulsion than their entire space program." The other admirals chuckled dutifully. Kael'dros felt the familiar warmth of superiority spreading through his thorax. The Vrynn had conquered 47 systems. Earth would be number 48, and honestly, it barely deserved the designation of conquest. More like pest control with extra steps. "Commence orbital bombardment of their military installations," he ordered, waving one hand dismissively. "Focus on this. North American continent first. Once their largest military force crumbles, the rest will surrender before dinner." The fleet moved into position. 300 warships, each capable of glassing a continent. Kael'dros watched through the viewscreen as Earth spun below, blue and green and utterly unaware of how thoroughly doomed it was. Then the humans responded. The first missile came from somewhere in Colorado, a mountainous region the scanners had marked as containing underground facilities. Primitive solid fuel propulsion, laughably slow by galactic standards. The point defense systems didn't even bother tracking it. It detonated 3 kilometers from the flagship. The electromagnetic pulse hit like a physical wave. Half the fleet's systems went dark. Backup generators kicked in after 5 agonizing seconds, but the damage was done. Communications were scrambled. Targeting systems rebooted. And in that brief window of confusion, Earth launched everything. "Report!" Kael'dros shouted, gripping his armrests as the ship shuddered. "Multiple launches detected, my prince. Thousands of projectiles incoming. They're using atmospheric scatter patterns to mask their trajectories." "Impossible! Our sensors!" Another explosion, this one closer. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the lower decks, something important sounding collapsed with a metallic shriek. "They're targeting our shield generators specifically." Threx's voice cracked with something that might have been panic. "They know our defensive weak points." Kael'dros stared at the tactical display, watching. Red warning icons multiply like a plague. The humans weren't launching at random. Every single missile, every kinetic projectile, every piece of orbital debris they'd weaponized, they were all aimed at critical systems with surgical precision. "How?" he whispered. "We've been in orbit for less than an hour." A junior officer, barely old enough to have earned her first service marks, spoke up from her station. Her voice trembled. "My prince, they're hacking our systems. They've been inside our network since we entered lunar orbit." The chamber fell silent except for the increasingly urgent alarm klaxons. "Purge the network! Shut down all external connections!" "We can't, my prince. If we do, we lose targeting, navigation, life support coordination." "Then isolate it. Contain it." "They're already in the isolated systems." Kael'dros felt his blood temperature drop. That was impossible. The Vrynn used quantum-encrypted communications with biological verification protocols. Nothing could crack that, especially not a species that still used binary code and silicon processors. The view screen changed without anyone touching the controls. Instead of the tactical display, a face appeared. Human. Female. Young, perhaps, though Kael'dros had never bothered learning how to judge their ages. She sat in what appeared to be a cramped room filled with glowing screens and half-eaten food containers. "Hi there," she said, munching on something orange and triangle-shaped. "I'm Lieutenant Maya Torres, United States Cyber Command." Well, technically I was Cyber Command. Now, I guess I'm more of a freelance digital warfare specialist. The chain of command got kind of fuzzy when you vaporized Geneva. Kael'dros found his voice. You're responsible for this?" "Me? Oh, no, no, no." She laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. "See, that's the thing you guys don't understand about humans. We don't do the whole unified command structure thing naturally. Right now, there are about 60,000 hackers, programmers, and very angry IT professionals all independently trying to murder your fleet with code. I'm just the one who got into your communications array first." She took another bite of her orange triangles, chewing thoughtfully, while Kael'dros watched in stunned horror. "Here's what's going to happen," Maya continued. "In about 30 seconds, your main reactor is going to experience a cascade failure. Not critical. Don't worry. You'll just lose main power for 6 to 8 hours. During that time, you might want to evacuate ships 17 through 43, because we've already uploaded some creative modifications to their waste management systems. Do you guys have norovirus? You're about to find out what that's like." "This is impossible!" Kael'dros roared. "Our technology is millennia ahead of yours." "Yeah, about that." Maya leaned forward, her expression shifting from casual to something much colder. "You know what happens when you give a species with severe anxiety, pattern recognition capabilities bordering on pathological, and basically unlimited access to digital entertainment a few decades to develop computer technology?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We get really, really good at breaking things." The main reactor alert began screaming. Kael'dros barely heard it over the sound of his own pride shattering. "You're finished," he said, trying to inject certainty into his voice. "You've bought yourselves hours at most. We still have 273 functional ships. You have one planet with no orbital defenses." Maya Torres set down her orange triangles. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper, but somehow it carried more weight than any battle cry Kael'dros had ever heard. "I'm just getting started." The screen went dark. 2 seconds later, the main reactor died, plunging the flagship into emergency lighting. In the red-tinged darkness, Kael'dros heard Threx speaking quietly to the tactical officer. "Recall all boarding parties, shift fleet formation to defensive posture, and somebody find out where this Maya Torres is located before she turns our entire flagship into a flying tomb." Prince Kael'dros wanted to countermand the orders, wanted to reassert his authority, wanted to pretend he was still in control of this situation. But he'd been trained in warfare since he was old enough to hold a plasma rifle, and he knew a losing position when he saw one. This was supposed to be a mop-up operation, a quick conquest to pad his military record before assuming the throne. Instead, he was sitting in the dark, being systematically dismantled by a species that should have been extinct within the first hour. "Status on ships 17 through 43? He asked quietly. The communications officer looked like she might be sick. "Their atmospheric processors are filling the corridors with methane, my prince, and someone activated all the automatic door locks. The crews are trapped." Casualties? None yet. But given the methane buildup and the fact that they're all evacuating their digestive systems violently and simultaneously, she trailed off, apparently unable to find words adequate to describe the situation. Kael'dros closed his eyes. Continue. The humans are broadcasting the security footage on all military channels. They've added music and commentary. I believe the term they're using is meme? Of course they were, because apparently this nightmare hadn't reached maximum humiliation yet. Get me a direct line to Earth's military command, he ordered. We need to negotiate terms. My prince, we don't negotiate with... Get me the line. Silence fell. Then Admiral Threx spoke, his voice careful. My prince, even if we wanted to negotiate, we don't know who to contact. The humans have no unified government. We've identified at least 43 separate political entities capable of independent military action. Then contact all of them. We tried. 17 told us to perform anatomically impossible acts. 8 started trying to hack our communication systems the moment we opened a channel. 3 are apparently arguing among themselves about who gets to respond to us. And 1 just sent back a single image file. Show me. The tactical display flickered back to life, showing a photograph of a human making an obscene gesture. The caption read, "From Russia with love." Kael'dros felt something snap inside his chest. This was madness. Complete, utter madness. You couldn't fight an enemy that treated warfare like a joke, that hacked your fleet while eating snacks, that responded to invasion with memes and middle fingers. My prince! The sensor officer's voice cut through his spiral. Multiple launches detected from the Asian continent. They're not missiles. Then what are they? Mass drivers, my prince. They're launching telephone pole-sized chunks of tungsten at near-orbital velocities. Impact in 40 seconds. Kael'dros watched the trajectory calculations, watched the inevitable mathematics of mass times velocity equals his fleet scattered across low Earth orbit like expensive confetti. Evasive maneuvers! All ships! The flagship lurched as its emergency thrusters fired. Around them, the fleet scattered, breaking formation in a desperate attempt to avoid the incoming kinetic kill vehicles. Most of them made it. Most. Ship 78 took a direct hit amidships, its shields already weakened by the earlier electromagnetic pulse. The tungsten rod punched through like it was paper, and for a brief, brilliant moment, the reactor core's death throes painted the void with exotic radiation patterns. Casualties? Kael'dros asked, his voice hollow. 1,400 crew. The ship's gone, my prince. 1 ship down. 1 ship out of 300. But it was the principle of the thing. The Vrynn didn't lose ships to primitives throwing metal rods. The Vrynn didn't get hacked by creatures who ate triangle-shaped food products while committing digital warfare. The Vrynn conquered. The Vrynn dominated. The Vrynn didn't sit in the dark, wondering what fresh horror these insane primates would unleash next. The view screen flickered again. Not Maya Torres this time. A different human. Male, older, wearing some kind of formal military uniform covered in decorative medals. This is General Marcus Webb, United Earth Defense Coalition, he said. His accent was different from Maya's, clipped and precise. To the commander of the invasion force, you have approximately 4 hours before we finish assembling our full counteroffensive. I strongly suggest you use that time to retreat beyond the orbit of Mars. Kael'dros found his voice. You can't be serious. We still outnumber you 300 to 1 in orbital assets alone. General Webb's expression didn't change. Son, we've been trying to kill each other for thousands of years. We got pretty good at it. The only reason we haven't blown ourselves extinct is because we kept getting distracted by trying to kill other things. Wolves, mammoths, each other. You're just the latest in a very long line of things we've decided need to die." He leaned closer to his camera, and Kael'dros saw something in those human eyes that made his skin prickle. Not rage, not fear. Something worse. Anticipation. 4 hours, Webb repeated. "After that, we start launching the interesting weapons. Trust me when I say you don't want to be here for that." The screen went dark again. In the emergency-lit silence of the command chamber, Prince Kael'dros of the Vrynn Empire made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Prepare the fleet for tactical withdrawal," he said quietly. "We need time to regroup, analyze their capabilities, and develop countermeasures." Nobody called it what it was: retreat. Nobody had to. Admiral Threx began issuing orders, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Ships moved into withdrawal formation. The wounded flagship limped toward the fleet's edge, ready to begin the long burn out of Earth's gravity well. That's when the Moon launched its missiles. "Moonbase Alpha to Invasion Fleet. Surprise!" The message blared across every frequency simultaneously, accompanied by what Kael'dros would later learn was called heavy metal music. The lunar surface, which their scans had shown as barren and lifeless, suddenly erupted with launch plumes. Dozens of them, then hundreds. "They weaponized their moon," Admiral Threx said flatly, his voice carrying the tone of someone whose sanity had just filed for divorce. "They actually weaponized their moon. Those facilities were marked as scientific research stations," Kael'dros sputtered, watching the incoming swarm on sensors that actually worked now that Maya Torres had apparently decided to stop scrambling them. "Geological surveys, ice mining operations." "Yeah, well, technically we weren't lying," a new voice chimed in over comms. Male, younger, with an accent that made every word sound perpetually amused. "We do research geology up here. Specifically, we research how fast we can throw rocks at people we don't like. I'm Captain Ravi Okonkwo, and welcome to humanity's oldest military strategy, the high ground." The missiles weren't missiles at all. They were rocks. Literal chunks of lunar regolith wrapped in basic guidance systems and solid fuel boosters. Cheap, simple, and absolutely devastating when launched from a gravity well a quarter the strength of Earth's. "They're not even aiming for direct hits," the tactical officer reported, his voice climbing toward hysteria. "They're hurting us." She was right. The rocks were creating a three-dimensional maze, forcing the fleet into tighter and tighter formations as they tried to avoid the incoming barrage. Kael'dros watched in growing horror as his carefully planned withdrawal turned into a chaotic scramble. "All ships! Maximum burn! Get us out of this kill box!" But the humans had thought of that too. Of course they had. The first net deployed from what looked like a decommissioned space station, spreading across 3 kilometers of void in seconds. Monofilament cable reinforced with carbon nanotubes, each strand strong enough to slice through standard hull plating. Ship 49 flew directly into it, and Kael'dros watched its forward section separate from the rest, like someone had drawn a line through butter. "Evasive maneuvers! All ships scatter protocol!" Too late. Nets deployed from 6 other locations, ancient satellites and abandoned orbital platforms that had apparently been repurposed into the galaxy's most terrifying fishing equipment. The fleet fragmented, ships breaking away in every direction, all cohesion lost. "My prince, we're receiving another transmission. It's coming from multiple sources, thousands of them." "Put it through." The view screen split into a grid of human faces, young, old, every skin tone imaginable, speaking dozens of different languages. But they all said the same thing, overlapping and echoing until it became a chant. "Welcome to Earth. Please enjoy your stay. We've prepared accommodations." Then they started laughing. All of them. Thousands of humans, laughing at the Vrynn Empire's finest military fleet like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. Kael'dros felt something crack inside his chest. Not his pride this time. Something deeper. Something that might have been his fundamental understanding of how the universe worked. "Get us out of here," he whispered. "I don't care how. Just get us out." The flagship burned hard, emergency thrusters firing at maximum. Around them, the rest of the fleet did the same, abandoning all pretense of military formation in favor of pure survival instinct. They made it to the edge of lunar orbit before the music started. Not the aggressive noise from before. This was different. Orchestral. Sweeping. The kind of music that accompanied important moments in human entertainment broadcasts. It swelled through every speaker on every ship, bypassing security protocols like they didn't exist. "What is this?" Kael'dros demanded. "Classical music, my prince," the communications officer replied, checking her console with shaking hands. "Specifically, it's called The Ride of the Valkyries by a human composer named Wagner. According to the attached file, it's traditionally used for helicopter attacks in human cinema." "We don't have helicopters in space." "No, my prince, but they do have those." She pointed at the view screen. Kael'dros looked. Hundreds of small craft were rising from Earth's atmosphere, none larger than a personal transport shuttle. They flew in loose formations, weaving between the fleeing warships with insane precision. As Kael'dros watched, one of them pulled alongside a frigate, matched velocity, and attached something to the hull. "What are they doing?" The answer came 30 seconds later, when every ship in the fleet simultaneously lost gravity. Not catastrophic system failure, just gravity. Crews floated free of their stations, equipment drifted, and anyone who'd been holding a hot beverage suddenly experienced the joy of discovering that liquid forms spheres in zero gravity. The spheres were everywhere. "They hacked our artificial gravity generators," Threx reported, sounding almost impressed despite himself. "And they're leaving everything else functional. This isn't an attack. This is bullying," Kael'dros finished bitterly. "They're bullying us." Another transmission. Maya Torres again, but this time she wasn't alone. A dozen other humans crowded around her, all eating various foods, all grinning. "So, here's the thing about humans," Maya said, gesturing with what appeared to be a sandwich. "We're really, really petty. You vaporized Geneva? That's where we kept all our international law. You know what Geneva was famous for? The Geneva Conventions, rules for warfare, and you just destroyed them." One of the other humans leaned into frame. "Which means we're not bound by them anymore. Legal loophole." They high-fived. Actually high-fived, while Kael'dros's fleet tumbled through space like toys in a bathtub. "But we're not monsters," Maya continued. "So we're giving you one more chance. Turn around. Go home. Tell whoever sent you that Earth is under new management, and we're not accepting visitors." "And if we refuse?" Kael'dros asked, trying to project confidence while floating sideways in his throne. Maya's smile vanished. "Then we stop playing nice." The transmission cut. Gravity returned abruptly, sending everyone crashing back to the deck. Kael'dros landed hard, pain shooting through his shoulder, dignity scattered somewhere near the navigation console. "My prince," Threx said quietly, "I recommend we accept their terms." "Absolutely not. We have orders from the Emperor himself. We cannot return to the homeworld having been defeated by primitives." Then what do you suggest? Kael'dros pulled himself upright, mind racing. They needed time. Time to analyze human capabilities. Time to develop countermeasures. Time to figure out how a species that still used combustion engines for surface transport had managed to hack quantum-encrypted systems. We pull back to Mars' orbit, he decided. Establish a defensive perimeter. Let them think they've won. Meanwhile, we study them, learn their weaknesses, and plan a proper assault. Threx looked skeptical, but nodded. Very well, my prince. Fleet orders, tactical withdrawal to Mars. Maintain defensive formations. The fleet limped away from Earth. 300 warships reduced to 260 functional vessels, countless systems compromised, and every crew member wondering what fresh nightmare the humans would unleash next. They made it 6 hours before the package arrived. It materialized in the flagship's cargo bay through a means that no scanner could detect. One moment, empty space. The next, a large crate with "Return to Sender" stenciled across it in 15 languages, including perfect High Vrynn. How did this get aboard? Kael'dros demanded, staring at the security footage. Nobody had an answer. The cargo bay had been sealed, monitored, and under armed guard. The crate had simply appeared. Should we open it? Threx asked. It could be a bomb. The humans have demonstrated they can destroy us whenever they want. If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead. Fair point. Kael'dros authorized the opening remotely, everyone watching from the bridge as robotic arms carefully unsealed the crate. Inside was a data crystal, a bottle of amber liquid, 2 glasses, and a handwritten note. Bring me the note, Kael'dros ordered. A junior officer retrieved it, handling the paper like it might explode. Kael'dros read, Dear Prince Kael'dros, we hope this finds you well. Inside you'll find complete technical specifications for your fleet, including every vulnerability we exploited. We're giving you this information because we want you to go home and fix them. Not for your sake, but because eventually you're going to meet something actually dangerous out there, and we'd prefer you survive the encounter. Why? Because in about 50 years, we're coming to visit you. Not to conquer, not to invade, just to visit. And when we arrive, we want you to be alive and thriving so we can trade technology, share culture, and maybe figure out this whole galactic civilization thing together. Until then, stay out of our star system. The whiskey is a gift. It's called bourbon, and it's humanity's apology for scaring the hell out of you. Drink it slowly. It's strong. Sincerely, the humans. P.S. We're sorry about ships 17 through 43. The methane thing was Ravi's idea, and he's been reprimanded. Mostly. We laughed pretty hard. Kael'dros read it 3 times, looking for threats, hidden meanings, some indication this was a trap. He found none. Just a polite letter explaining that humanity had defeated them, given them the keys to fixing their defenses, and invited them back in half a century for drinks and diplomacy. This is insane, he muttered. Insane or brilliant? Threx picked up the bottle, examining it. They're turning a military defeat into a future alliance. They've shown us they can destroy us, then immediately offered friendship. Every tactical advantage gained, then voluntarily surrendered. It's either the stupidest strategy in galactic history or the smartest. Kael'dros looked at the data crystal, then at his fleet still limping toward Mars, then back at the bottle of bourbon. Set course for the homeworld, he said finally. Best possible speed. We're done here. My prince? We came to conquer a primitive species. Instead, we found something much worse. He picked up the bottle, turning it over in his hands. We found equals, possibly superiors, and they just gave us homework. The flagship turned, followed by the rest of the battered fleet. As they accelerated away from the Sol system, one final transmission reached them. Not threatening, not mocking, just human. It was Maya Torres, alone this time, eating more orange triangles. "See you in 50 years, Kael. Bring snacks. Earth's going to throw one hell of a welcome party." Then she was gone, and the Vrynn fleet was alone in the dark, heading home to explain the unexplainable. 3 months later, Prince Kael'dros stood before the imperial court, presenting his report. He described the human capabilities in detail, the technological innovations, the terrifying creativity, the absolute refusal to fight by any recognized rules of engagement. "And your recommendation?" the Emperor asked. Kael'dros took a breath. "Leave them alone. For now. Study the data they provided, learn from it, and in 50 years, when they arrive on our doorstep as promised, greet them as potential allies rather than enemies." "You would have us befriend those who humiliated our fleet?" "No, Your Majesty. I would have us befriend those who could have annihilated our fleet but chose mercy instead. There's a difference." The court murmured, debating, arguing. Eventually, the Emperor raised one hand for silence. "Very well. We shall wait. We shall watch. And we shall see if these humans are worthy of their own hype." He fixed Kael'dros with a hard stare. "But if they prove hostile, the responsibility falls on you." "Understood, Your Majesty." That night, alone in his quarters, Kael'dros poured himself a measure of bourbon. He sniffed it, suspicious, then took a careful sip. It burned going down, warmth spreading through his chest. Complex flavors he couldn't identify. Surprisingly pleasant. He raised the glass toward the viewport, toward the distant yellow star that contained Earth. 50 years, he said softly. "Let's hope you're as friendly as you are terrifying." Somewhere, light years away, Maya Torres was probably eating orange triangles and planning humanity's next impossible trick. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, Kael'dros smiled. The galaxy had just gotten a lot more interesting.